Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Topics with Substance. My name is Roxanne, and I am the creator of Better in Doses. Better in Doses is a media platform that is powered by creativity, consciousness, and psychedelics. I want to touch on that last part a little more because, well, if you follow us on Instagram, you know that a lot of our content is inspired by psychedelic culture, whether that be 1960s counterculture, psychedelic music, super trippy art, thought leaders from the 1960s like Timothy Leary or Ram Dass, yada yada yada. Even the name Better in Doses is a nod to microdosing. I wanted to further draw out the narrative of psychedelic culture because we are not a brand or a blog that just likes the aesthetics of psychedelia or the hippy dippy feel good ultra spiritual shit that comes with psychedelic culture. Today I want to talk about psychedelics because it is something that has profoundly impacted my life and is something that I find to be very sacred. And you know, like I said, it's not just the aesthetics of it. And I also felt that right now was the perfect time to talk about it because it is LSD week. Fuck 420, you know what I'm saying? It's all about April 19th, which is Bicycle Day. And if you don't know what Bicycle Day is, here is a quick little overview.
Bicycle Day is the holiday celebrating the first LSD trip embarked by Swiss chemist AlbertHofmann on April 19, 1943. AlbertHofmann was the first human to experience the psychedelic effects of LSD. This all happened on his bicycle ride home from the lab that day. LSD stands for lysergic acid dithylamine. Lysergic acid is the core structure of ergot, which is a fungus from tainted rye. Ergotamine is the medicinal property of the fungus, isolated by AlbertHofmann's boss, Professor Arthur Stoll. Hoffmann set out to continue Stoll's ergot research, and on his 25th attempt in stabilizing lysergic acid with other organic molecules, Hoffmann finally synthesized LSD-25. He reacted lysergic acid with dithylamine, which is a derivative of ammonia. Technically speaking, April 16, 1943 was the first time Hoffmann felt some psychedelic effects when he synthesized LSD-25. Due to feeling strange and dizzy that day, Hoffmann went home early and later reported to Arthur Stoll what he experienced.
In a dreamlike state with eyes closed, I perceived an uninterrupted stream of fantastic pictures, extraordinary shapes with intense kaleidoscopic play of color.
3 days later, on April 19, 1943, at 4:20 p.m., Hoffmann intentionally ingested 25 tiny micrograms of LSD-25. FYI, 1 microgram is 1/1,000,000th of a gram. Pretty small dose, so Hoffmann thought. 40 minutes later, after the initial dose, he wrote in his journal,
beginning dizziness, feeling anxiety, visual distortions, symptoms of paralysis, desire to laugh.
Hoffmann's lab assistant had to escort him home. Due to World War II, there were automobile restrictions and both men rode bicycles home while Hoffmann was tripping balls. The rest is history.
Die ganze Mechanik besteht darin, dass unsere Sinne verstärkt werden, enorm verstärkt werden. Dann sehen wir die Welt anders.
Now that we are acquainted and familiar with the history of LSD and what Bicycle Day is, I wanted to talk about my personal experience with acid and why it is so near and dear to me. I was introduced to acid by my parents, and I don't know, I guess I'm kind of used to the idea of it now, but I do understand that it is a very strange and rare blessing. It was the summer of 2009. I was 15 years old. It was my mom's 42nd birthday, and I'd have to say it was definitely a rebirth for myself. I just remember that day we drove to California, we explored nature, and I was kind of just fighting the idea of it. Like, I felt like I was too mentally strong, and I just kept telling my dad, yeah, I don't feel anything, like, the fuck, I don't feel shit. And he was just like, how about you just shut up stop talking about how you don't feel anything and see what happens. Sitting in the middle of the forest, took a look at my hands, looked around me, everything was so bright and crystal clear, and I was like, oh shit, I think I'm tripping. And I finally just let go of all my preconceived notions and ignorance of whatever I thought it was. I laughed a lot, I cried a lot. I feel like I always cry for whatever reason. I remember getting just really emotional and filled with overwhelmingly amounts of love when I thought about my siblings and my parents. I remember crying to Aerosmith's song Angel. I had a very crazy revelation about my family at the time. And I'll be real, it's not like just because my family introduced me to acid doesn't mean that we didn't have our own family problems. And that was something that I actually cried about because it was like I got to understand it on a bigger picture level. I feel like acid makes you think about things in just a wider perspective, objectively. So yeah, that was my first acid trip. I also got my nose pierced at Venice Beach. That was crazy. It almost felt like I got my nose pierced in slow motion. I don't know, weird. It was a beautiful experience, and I'm very grateful that I got to have that experience with my parents and my brothers. Any hooser doozer, moving on to the rest of this video. When I think about how acid has impacted my life, I think about it in 3 parts. One is how it has changed my perception on the arts, be it music or film. 2, how it has affected me spiritually. I read somewhere that acid, or psychedelics in general, is the fast track to enlightenment, and I can definitely feel that. And 3, what I think acid can do for the world and how it can play a critical part in changing the collective consciousness. There is one specific organization that also believes in its sacred healing powers, which I will get to at the end of this video. Let's get right into it.